The Oilers are in doing their captain skates and interviews, getting ready for the season to start with quite a few new faces, which is interesting because they were able to keep most of the band together from last year's Cup final run, save for a few unforeseen events. But it's clear as day, this team's gearing up for another really deep playoff run. Lord Stanley's on their minds, but you gotta play 82 games to get to the dance first, and after the train wreck that was the Oilers' start last year, the group seems a lot more cautious and cognizant of the old cliche, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And look, there's a reason they play the games. What you see on paper isn't exactly what you get on the ice, but looking at the Pacific Division, the Oilers look like the front runner to take it. I could definitely see Vancouver challenging for top spot, and you never know with the Vegas Golden trade deadlines. But right now, Edmonton definitely seems to be the favorite. You look at the moves they made this offseason though, not just the big ones like Jeff Skinner and Arvidsson, but losing Ryan McLeod in your bottom six and getting Matt Savoy, who may or may not be ready for the NHL. Adding Vasily Podkolzin almost as like a pseudo Dylan Holloway replacement, and Ty Emberson on D almost like a pseudo Cody Ceci replacement depending what you get from Troy Stetcher. Then there's the Evander Kane injury, what's going on with that? And of course the two offer sheets for two young guys who are developing pretty nicely and were pretty impactful for the Oilers on their playoff run. So yeah, as many re-signings as we saw, with more than a few guys who decided to stay in Edmonton, we also saw quite a bit of change, and it begs the question, is this Oilers team better than last year's? About the same or worse? Now, as far as the top six goes, whether it was Fogle or it was Holloway in there, I definitely think this year's top six is better. Jeff Skinner was giving you between 25 and 35 goals in Buffalo. It's exciting to think what he can do alongside draisaitl or McDavid, especially with that massive contract weight off his back. Plus, he's on a one-year prove-it deal. Arvidsson battled some pretty significant injury issues last year, but if he's healthy, you're more than likely going to get some pretty solid top six production out of him. Plus, you can't forget about the Nuge and now 50-goal scorer Zach Hyman. Plenty of support around 97 and 29 now. Gone are the 2018 to 2020 days, and even the bottom six looks good. Provided everyone stays healthy, it's a really well-rounded forward group. On paper, definitely one of the better ones in Oilers history. The goaltending situation really isn't any different. They rolled with Skinner Pickard for most of the year last season. The two questions I have this year are A, Pickard's been in and out of the NHL a few times before. Is this time different? Is this the year he proves he can be a legit NHL backup that you can rely on for more than just one season? And secondly, we got the Four Nations face-off coming up, and like I've mentioned a few times, for Team Canada, there's no Carey Price, Marty Brodeur, Roberto Luongo here. It's basically open auditions between guys like Aiden Hill, Jordan Binnington, Connor Ingram, and yeah, Stuart Skinner. Maybe that lights a fire under him to show that he's good enough to be the number one goalie at this tournament, or even just making the team in general. You mix that with the fact that he's a hometown kid, he's the number one goalie on his childhood team that has heavy Stanley Cup aspirations. It's a big year for 74, but something I'm sure Oilers fans are more than used to. My biggest question with this team is on defense. The top pair not so much. I think Ekholm insulates Bouchard beautifully, and 2 holds up his end of the bargain by making it rain in points. Especially in the power play, the chemistry he has with 97 and 29 has been wild to watch. But past that top pair, honestly, your guess is as good as mine what we're going to get from those 4. Can one of Ty Emberson or Troy Stetcher be an upgrade over Cody Ceci on that right side? Or at the very least be an adequate replacement? Say what you want about Ceci, and a lot of it is fair, but the guy still averaged over 20 minutes in each of the 3 seasons he was an Oiler, barely missed any games, and the Oilers went to at least the second round every year he was there. While again, getting a pretty big chunk of ice time, the guy did something right. Might end up being a bit trickier of a hole to fill than some might think. Can Emberson do it? Maybe. I've already seen some people saying that he's going to be a pleasant surprise for the Oilers, but especially alongside Darnell Nurse, who's also apparently dealing with some injury stuff himself, that's definitely a question mark as a second pair. I like Kulak as a 5, I think he's good in that role. And as for that 6th spot, whether it's Stetcher or Josh Brown, they can probably get by, but this is news to no one. Everybody's probably thinking it. They should try to get an upgrade on that right side. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Now, that's much easier said than done with how tight they are salary cap wise right now. Plus, you've got the draisaitl contract kicking in next year. Bouchard's going to need a new deal soon. And of course, the big mama, McDavid's contract is on its last legs. But a rental, especially as we get closer to trade deadline time, is probably still a viable option. Overall, you guys know where I'm at. I think this team is a serious cup contender. As much as some of that decor concerns me, I do think they got better compared to last year, largely because of the additions to the top 6, yes, and even more so if Savoy's NHL ready and cracks the roster, but also just because of the experience gained from last year, and not just because of the deep run of the cup final. Like, you listen to McDavid talk about rest and feeling good compared to how they started last year. I think that's got a ton of value, not just in how you approach this season so that doesn't happen again, but just the confidence, the belief, the mental fortitude from the adversity in knowing how to handle tough times like that in the future. Overall, I think they're going to be playing lots of La Bamba in Edmonton this year. Similar story, how can the decor and the goaltending hold up against what I think is going to be some pretty stiff competition in teams like Vancouver, Nashville, Dallas, because you know the big boys are going to do what they do, and the top 6 in general, like I said, looks great. It's going to be interesting to see how the other stuff holds up in Northern Alberta. As usual, give me your thoughts in the comments. Do you think they're better than last year, and what are your predictions for them him this season. For more Oilers content, you know what to do. Like the video and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're doing well. I'll see you in the next one.